Sister punished me at her wedding by seating us with kids. Now family calls me childish for excluding them from mine. My sister, 34F, and her husband, 36 male, just got married 3 months ago. I, 30F, was appointed Mo. I was so excited to help her plan her wedding and I took on most of the work since I was unemployed at the time and she's a doctor. I won't get into details but take note she didn't have a wedding planner. It was all me. The time leading up to the wedding, I was miserable because of how the bride treated me. I felt like her own personal slave that she felt she could kick around because she's the bride. Just because you're a bride doesn't mean you get a free pass to be a bitch. Many times I wanted to just step out of the wedding party but I kept telling myself to just bite my tongue and keep the peace because she's probably just stressed. After doing so much for her, she refused to invite my fiancé even if we've been together for 12 years but invited my siblings' partners who have been around for only 2 to 3 years. My sister and her guy dated for a year before they got engaged so we don't really know him too well. She said she didn't want my fiancé around because people would be asking about my own wedding since they've all been wanting us to get married for a while. I refused to do any more work for her wedding until she apologized to me and invited my fiancé, which she did. Not exactly sincerely but whatever. I was hurt she wasn't even grateful for anything that I had done for her in her dream wedding because it was expected of me to help. Cut to the day of the wedding and everything was fine. The ceremony was beautiful and the couple was happy. I was happy for my sister. By the time we got to the reception venue, I noticed that my fiancé and I were on a separate table from my family. They were at the VIP table and I was cast aside to sit at the furthest table right beside the kitchen. I figured there was a mistake and I calmly asked the bride about it. Say she handled the seating plan. She looked me dead in the eye and said there's no mistake, that's where we belong. At the kids' table and far away. We were seated with 7 to 14 years olds. The groom overheard us and agreed with me but kept quiet when my sister gave him this "don't you dare disagree with me" look. At the end of the night, the groom apologized to my parents for what happened to me and said he had no clue his bride did that. But he didn't say a word to me as his bride told him not to. Because of this, I decided to not make an issue and just try to enjoy the remainder of the night with my partner but I wouldn't make a Mo speech. My parents noticed where I was and got upset at the situation as well. My siblings knew very well I wasn't at their table but didn't bother looking for me or wondering why I wasn't seated there. When they heard I wasn't making a speech, my 2 brothers walked to my table to tell me off saying I had to understand my sister and the stress of being a bride, be nice to her because it's her special day and you're only a bride once, yeah right I bet they'll divorce, that I'm a disgrace and a disgusting disappointment for not doing a speech for my sister, that I would make my sister sad and I was being selfish making the night about me, when I was literally quiet in our corner. Needless to say, I wasn't having the best time. So we got up and left. We ended up in McDonald's for dinner and I posted a story of us getting burgers saying post-wedding meal. I made sure I posted it after the reception ended to not make it look like I ditched but my siblings saw this as an attack to my sister somehow. Up to this day, the bride says she did nothing wrong and her reasoning for putting me there was, 1. I didn't plan her wedding exactly like she envisioned during the process so I deserved to sit there, when I was doing everything she told me she wanted. 2. She didn't like that I looked pretty in my gown and, 3. I needed to be punished for insisting on bringing my fiancé. I didn't plan for my own wedding yet as I wanted to be 100% focused on hers, plus she banned me from getting married before her since she's older. Again because I didn't want the drama, I agreed, but now I just don't want anyone there except my parents and a few close friends. My parents agree with me but my siblings are upset calling me childish but to be completely honest, I just don't feel like paying for shit people. Mine is a destination wedding and my fiancé and I are paying for everything. These are our savings and I don't feel like splurging on these people. They along with my grandparents and cousins are all saying I'm wrong. But hey, if I was excluded from being a sibling at my sister's wedding and no one cared, then why would you be upset if I excluded you in return? Update 1. I come from a family of 5 kids. I failed to mention this because I didn't think it was all that relevant but I actually have 2 sisters, 34 and 32, and 2 brothers, 26 and 22. A little more on my sisters. They're the best of friends. They're the picture-perfect model of sisterly love. While I'm the middle child with 2 younger brothers. So why did I agree to be Mo? Well because I thought it would bring us closer. In my mind, I believed that this was her trying to be more of a sister to me. You always hear stories of that sisterly bond around weddings and I tried to nurture that because that's what they had. And that sibling bond is what my brothers had with each other as well. Any chance I'd get to connect with my sisters, I'd jump at the opportunity. It's more me just feeling left out than being a doormat. I was a very sickly child and that is why I was mostly with just my parents growing up while my siblings would be going out, meeting friends, etc. which is what my siblings envied apparently. They aren't close to my parents. Bride had both of us as Mo because she couldn't choose just one. I later found out that I was always the second option, and I was just appointed Mo so I do all the work while other Mo got all the praise. Which in hindsight, I should have seen coming. While my brothers were busy harassing me about giving my Mo speech, sister 2 was giving her own Mo speech about how she absolutely loves the bride and will do anything for her, all that cr/p. She then conveniently calls all the siblings to the stage to toast the bride and groom when I was crying and rushing out/walking away from my brothers. So did the other relatives in attendance. I was making a scene and making it about me. No, it's not the first time she hurt me, fat shamed me as a child, calling me a potato, saying things like I was a burden to the family because of my epilepsy, throwing all my makeup in the sink and wetting it because I moved her bath towel in the bathroom, calling me the stupid low IQ sister even if I'm a licensed architect with a master's degree when her guy friends wanted to ask for my number, taking my dream church from me, which is why fiancé said we could do a destination wedding at my dream country instead. It's just the worst she's done to spite me in front of my entire family. And no, we still haven't spoken since then, and she still maintains that I was the one who ruined everything by getting upset about the seating. Now for the update. We will elope. Just us two and a handful of close friends that were there for us since the beginning of our relationship. We'll have a small church wedding and a little celebration on the beach with the people we love, our chosen family, followed by island hopping with our entire party around the Philippines. All paid by us. Because I will spend on memories and experiences for people that love and appreciate us. The budget we set aside for a wedding in Italy will be put to an intimate 5-day wedding celebration on an island in the Philippines. 2. We will have our reception with the family when we get back home. The plan is to invite both our big families to a lunch on the weekend after. Collectively, this would mean about 80 guests max. Both our parents wanted to help pay for the engagement party and rehearsal dinner. They agreed to pay for this luncheon/reception instead, meaning they could invite whomever they please. They handle the guest list, so if my siblings are invited, I couldn't care less because I'll be too busy with my husband of 1 to 2 weeks by then. Here we can still have the father-daughter dance and a few other things like cake slicing, etc. We'll have piñatas, a brick oven pizza cart, coffee and pretzels, and an amazing Italian buffet with a pasta bar, lots of fresh fruit and cheese, because who doesn't like cheese? As for seating plan, ever watched Mamma Mia 1? Yep. Think that. A long winding table where my siblings can be as far away from me as possible, and as close to the service area as possible without it being obvious because they'll all be together at their own siblings' table. We'll be in the center with my fiancé, his 2 brothers and our parents will be next to us, while my wonderful sibs are by the end of the table, by the restrooms, where they belong. I don't care at all if they're invited to this lunch because I really have nothing left for them. Not even anger. I'm just so done with them that I'd feel more for a stranger on the street than I would for these people. It's indifference. They've hurt me so many times that I'm numb to their existence. 3. No bridezilla allowed. My sister expects to be my mo in return. Definitely not going to happen since my siblings won't be present in the ceremony. I do not need her around, I do not want her around. Yes, she will be invited out of courtesy to the reception most likely, but I will make sure she's set aside like I was. How so? We recently found out she's pregnant, so I'm planning my wedding around her due date. Oh well, luckily, she's due around June, which really was the month we wanted. So if she does decide to attend with a newborn and her hen, she's going to be at the kiddie table and told to step out when baby starts to cry. In the end, our wedding day is for us. And eloping is the only way I feel like we could just sit and enjoy our special day together away from all my siblings and family issues. Then we get back, have a get-together lunch with some good food and good fun. Which is really all it is to me, a lunch. Luckily, fiancé's fam isn't as insane as mine is. Update 2. I know a number of you have been waiting, and I swear this is the soonest I could post. I'm sorry. I promise I'll explain. The wedding, I absolutely enjoyed wedding planning with my husband. Yay, if you ever decide to get married, do a small wedding. You'll live longer, I swear. We told our friends and families that we were pushing back the wedding and wanted to do a destination bachelor/bachelorette trip first. They had no idea we were actually getting married on this trip. We got to Boracay 3 days before everyone for summer's time. When friends arrived, we did all the fun island activities. The night before our wedding, we asked everyone to be up at 7 for breakfast and to dress up in tropical beach outfits for cute pics. We told them to pack this beforehand. Once everyone was there, husband told them we were to be married at 4 p.m. and this was actually an elopement. The excitement from all our friends will forever be a core memory. It's the best feeling to actually have people genuinely happy for you. Us girls did each other's hair and makeup, cried and hugged a lot, while the boys had a good time drinking and playing football. We had our phones and an old digital camera that we'd pass around, and that was it for our event photos. Surprises were our thing since we began dating, and it was just so sweet that we both thought to do the same for our wedding. I love flowers, but I didn't want to bother finding a supplier there. We did have someone help us with all the requirements, but that was it. I'd just get flowers for the lunch on instead. Well, my husband decided to speak to the hotel to surprise me. He knew my favorite flowers and made the prettiest bouquet ever. He also had the church filled, and I ruined my makeup ugly crying when I walked in. For my husband, he is extremely close with his brothers, so I made sure to fly them out to surprise him too. He needed his best men there and I was happy to have them. We said our I-dos, and headed to the hotel for dinner by the beach for a bottle fight. Google that now. It's so good, nothing fancy, but we were happy. The luncheon before the elopement, I sent my seating plan to our family GC because I didn't want them to make a scene on the day. Everyone thought these were the seating plans for our reception. Well, here's where my pettiness shows. My head table consisted of us, our parents, and my husband's brothers. All my siblings were at both ends of the long table. My favorite slap in the face though was a table for one way I in the back tagged breastfeeding area with sister's name on the chair. She was livid. I simply said I was looking out for her. I expected she'd want some privacy. No hard feelings, just thinking ahead. My siblings refused to come because they saw my elopement as an act of disrespect, especially since my brothers-in-law were there. They called our relatives to tell them to not come. Some were upset I could do that to family and they did not agree with our union. I'm happy to report that FR 127 guests, only 58 were coming. So I cut my budget by over half. Sounds like a win to me. The venue was my husband's small family farm, which was so beautiful that I didn't need to spend much on decor at all. Music was just a Spotify playlist we made, photos, prenup, beach and lunch, were all by my friends, cake was baked by me and mom 2 nights before, flowers I bought myself from the morning market and arranged with my girls, my dress was just one I had in my closet. Food, we asked people to bring over potluck meals instead of gifts if they wanted to, we still had our pizza oven, pretzel cart and coffee bar that we paid for instead of a caterer. E-invites were designed by us and sent via email. Since my siblings all didn't want to attend, only Bridezilla's hubby got an invite, with no option for A+1. Her C-section was scheduled a week before my wedding. Did she notice I planned for her to miss the luncheon? Yes. Yes, she did. It was magical. Us being so unaffected upset them even more. But I've come to realize that the louder you try to force people to side with your opinions and your narrative, then the more toxic, unhinged, narcissistic you are. No, I didn't need to go NC with them because they all decided to be NC with me. I didn't even need to try. Blessings left and right. For those blaming my parents, none of my siblings were neglected. If anything, they gave my sibs so much more time and freedom to compensate for all the attention I needed. Remember, these kids are grown-ass adults. My parents are seniors, they're tired. They told my siblings off for being gigantic gaping a-holes, but what else can they do really? Put them on timeout? Since both our parents wanted to pitch in, they helped us with a down payment on a house instead. In return, we surprised them with a 1-week vacation each to Amanpulo. We saved so much from our wedding and luncheon that we just wanted to show how much we appreciate their support and love. Lastly, any extra food and flowers were either taken home by guests or donated. That just made everything more special. Weddings are about love. Our favorite people were around to celebrate us, and we made sure to also celebrate the love we have for them. Our family, best friends, dogs, who were the stars of the show really. I fully embrace this life of peace, contentment and indifference for my siblings. No idea what they're up to. Sorry, they kicked me out of the GC and I only know my sister gave birth because bro-in-law messaged she did. Last thing I heard is they were still trying to badmouth my husband, but we really couldn't care less. We've moved on. Sucks for them they haven't. Now on to second story. Daughter keeps digging a financial hole of debt and poor decisions, and now she's dragging me into her mess again. My daughter, 35, used to live a frugal lifestyle but became an emotional spender in her mid-20s and it's out of control. She also is the worst housekeeper imaginable, which leads to buying too much of things that can't be found and having to buy new things because necessities and frivolities get ruined. Her house is a literal pig pen of junk and garbage and crap. She has 3 cats and cleans the litter boxes about once per month. She and her first husband of 8 years divorced when he came out. They have 2 young children. He has a good job, and when they were together, they were probably bringing in $200,000. We live in an area where the call is reasonable. He's likely making about $180,000 now and pays child support. Within 2 years of the divorce, she was remarried. She and husband number 2 bought a house that they simply would not be able to afford unless the sun and moon and stars aligned daily. It was a 6-bedroom house, over 3,300 finished square feet. Their combined income was in the neighborhood of $125,000 excluding child support. The house was $325,000, and to afford it, her husband had to work at least 10 hours of overtime every week. Next thing I know, they bought a new SUV, and then a few months later, he's sporting a brand new gigantic pickup. Then they're taking a trip to Paris for the holidays. I didn't know how much they were making, but she's a smart girl and I assumed they were spending within their means. About 18 months into the marriage, she asked for a divorce, and that's when everything came out. They were in debt about $80,000, he'd taken a new job that didn't offer overtime and was at a lesser salary, so there was no way they could pay for the house. Throughout the mess of getting the divorce, her sisters, broke, hers, and I loaned/gave her in excess of $5,000 for emergency items like lawyer, apartment deposit, moving expenses, utility bills, etc. At that point, she came to me for help. With the sale of the house, she would be able to pay off some of her debt, but was left with about $39,000 in credit card debt. I considered paying about $28,000 for her and setting up a repayment plan while also setting up plans for her to get her own debts under control. I expressed clearly this would require a complete change in her spending habits, as she would have to live for 5 years like she had no money, but then everything would be paid off and she'd be all good. She was focused only on my paying off a bunch of her debt, and I could see that. As we discussed ways to cut her expenses, she was brushing off every reasonable suggestion such as, no cable/streaming services, they have internet and YouTube, no weekly meals out, grocery shop at Walmart and Aldi, not Target, no daily trips to Target just because. During this time, she went a little nuts before the divorce was finalized, and 2 days after we met, she was laid off when her position was terminated. 3 days later we got together for her birthday and her 9-year-old daughter was wearing a $200 pair of new cowboy boots that she'd gotten 2 days before when she and her mom went to see some big-name country singer in concert out of town. At that point I noped myself right out of helping her. She was paying me back for a few thousand in loans and I just stopped expecting those payments, but planned to resume them when her situation improved. She was out of work for about 3 months and finally landed a job making 66% of her former salary, about $50,000. I haven't asked her to resume her loan payments. She called the other day because when she got her new SUV, it was an adjustable loan. The new rate is coming up and her payment is going to more than double, to over $800 a month. She can't afford that and she has no credit to go get a car on her own. She wants my help with that. In the last 2 weeks, she had professional family portraits taken and got a new tattoo, piercing, and a full head hair color. My credit score is 830, my only debt is my house payment which is stupid low. I live an extremely frugal life mostly. I've got a great savings account, excellent retirement savings, and I still work and make enough to live better than I do. I am money conscientious. I do some fun things with my money, and I have earned that right. If I don't help her, she will have the car repossessed. She has to have a car or everything spirals. Also, she is a terrible driver and has been in as many as 6 at-fault accidents/wrecks in the last 8 years. I am at a loss of how to help her because I know how she is. Someone has been there to bail her out in the last 2 years which I believe has just made her lazy and complacent and blind to her situation. She is coming over today now, to talk about her finances. I insisted she bring everything including all of her bills, bank account info, salary info, 401k and other retirement info, child support. She said she'd be willing to let me help her set up a budget and plan. I've heard that before. So please, can anyone offer me any advice on how to proceed? I want to help her but I do not want to enable her. I can't make her change and I'm not going to try. I don't know what to do. Update 1. 7 months ago I posted about my adult daughter who appeared to be actively working to ruin her life financially and was always asking for money from me, her siblings, and probably her friends. I wanted to find a way to help her. I got a lot of don't and some other good advice and some interesting advice. Here's how it all played out. She brought with her all of her debts and income papers. She was making enough money to pay her bills including the new amount that would come due each month for her car. The problem was how and where she was spending her money. The biggest culprit was meals out. The amount was staggeringly high, nearly 1/4 of her monthly income for her and her 2 kids that she has 1 week on/1 week off in shared custody. After reviewing all of that, I offered a few suggestions on how to immediately cut down on spending. I was met with pushback, not strong, but she wasn't really buying into my suggestions. So I asked her what she wanted, and she said, I want to be able to pay my bills and keep my car. I said, okay, stop eating out. There's $1,200 a month after you buy groceries. That's enough to pay your car and start paying off your credit cards without borrowing any money from anyone. She got angry. So I said, I'll work up a plan for you and email it over later. She left, obviously unhappy. That night I worked out an aggressive repayment plan that would pay off her credit card debt in 2 years and still allowed for meals out a couple times a month at kids eat free places and a family entertainment night at someplace inexpensive and even better if coupons were involved. The plan showed how to pay off the highest interest rates first while still paying more than the monthly minimum on the other cards and laid out how the debt would be reduced each month. I chose a 2-year repayment plan because her kids will soon be in junior high and this would give her the income for the extra expenses that come as a result. She could have moved it to a 3-year plan, and really the only change she had to make was cut Netflix, cut the Apple Watch, and stop eating out. All the savings would go directly towards fixed expenses and debt, and if she didn't spend as much as budgeted for food, she could put it into savings. Result, silence. She cut contact with me and her sisters. She'd done this before so we all just said fine and didn't try to work it out. Then 3 months later, I got a Venmo payment towards her loans. Her sister said she got one the same day. The payments have come each month since. A few weeks after the first one, we all saw on SM that she had taken a part-time job. Then in the last several weeks, she started sending texts. She most recently mentioned that her credit score has gone up over 200 points this year, and she's working her tail off to pay off bills. It was never my intent to give her more money or co-sign any loans. Her silence made that easier. I am not sure if someone else loaned her the money or got her a consolidation loan. It appears she has taken financial responsibility for herself and her kids, and is making good progress.